Hi, I'm Liz Larson with the Otter Frosting. Welcome back. Today I'm going to show you just some highlights from this adorable little flower pot cake. This happens to be a baby shower. I won't be teaching all the techniques in this video, but I will be showing you some of the highlights, how I did the flowers and how I did some of the other decorations here. So let's get started. I'm starting with some very thin bendy straws. These are really inexpensive at the grocery store, but you want the super thin ones. And some mini marshmallows. Just going to tuck it on the end there and kind of manipulate it around so you've got a nice little cone there. Next you want some really thin candy melt. You want it to be quite warm, and if you need to thin it down, you want it to be about that consistency, add a little shortening. Notice I've got a real spring green here. You want a real light green. You want it to be real fresh. Get it on your straw here. And then you want to spin off as much of the excess as possible. Otherwise, it'll just drip back down your straw. And then here I've got some sugar that I've just put a little bit of yellow food coloring. You just grind it around in your hands until the food coloring incorporates. And a tiny bit of edible glitter mixed in with that, just for a little extra pop. You just want to cover the end of your marshmallow. It's going to give it a nice soft look, as well as a little bit of glittery sheen. And then you just want to stick it down in here. I've got a cup full of rice to hold my straws up. Rice works great, beans work great. And you want to let those dry until you're ready to start decorating. When your straws are really nice and dry, 10 or 15 minutes, you want to let them be really dry so it really keeps this marshmallow attached here. You want to come in with your number 124 tip. Now you could use number 104 as well, no problem there. You want to keep your straw aimed away from you because you're going to be working on the back side. Come up at the base of the marshmallow and you want to let it build and just let it fan out with the tiniest little zigzag. These petals are not going to be too ruffly at all. You want them to touch, but not really to overlap. Okay, come in the middle of the first petal here, come right up on the bottom of the back and fan this one out just a little more, tiny zigzag. Again, touch but not overlap. 2. You're gonna have to really manipulate the straw, guys. This is a hard one. 3, and there you have your little poppy. I'm beginning now with my 2-tiered cake. This is a 10-inch round and a 6-inch round. And you can see that my 6-inch round is slightly sculpted. It's iced in the palest of pink. Might be hard to see with camera that it looks like white. I've got just the tiniest touch of white vinegar on my towel here. That'll clean up any fingerprints and any icing without any kind of chemicals. You would never want to use anything like Windex on your platters. I've also got my cake on a very low Lazy Susan so that I can work on the top. Starting now with the small details on my top tier. And I just want to put little hearts. It's just like a straight shell, if you know how to do that. I'm going to do a bigger one, a slightly smaller, and a slightly smaller. I'm coming around now where my 2 sides are going to meet up, and I've been moving this way, so I want to come back to this side and start here. And then come back to this side so that my 2 sides will meet up. It's easy to get larger or smaller while you're going around, but if you use this technique, then now I'm going to be right in the middle and I can adjust my sizing and my spacing. So the next part of my design is to add a doily that's straight over this. So what I want to do is I want to mark 6 spots. So I'm going to come this way and then directly across So I have 6 equal spots. I also want this to be just a little pad for my ruffle. I also want it to give me a mark down the side of the cake. I'm going to add just a little more icing to my pads here because I really want these ruffles to be able to stand out a little bit. I'm going to begin by doing my bottom edge, my ruffle. So I've just got my quick icer here, and I'm going to drape this ruffle up over this pad, and I'm basically dropping a line. If you're familiar with string work, you're basically touching, lifting, squeezing real even pressure, and you're letting it drop. The next step is to come in and fill in. Now we're going to use our smoothing technique for this, so I still don't want to have to do a lot, so I'm just lightly filling in using my pressure control here. The next step is to come in with your little baggie here. This is the very edge of a Ziploc bag. And you've seen me do this trick a lot lately. This is actually Leah's trick, and it's a way that we can make buttercream look like fondant. Very, very smooth. I'm coming back in now with my number 1 writer, and I'm going to add what's called SWEETEX here. It's a form of Cornelli lace. It's very, very tiny Cornelli lace. You can basically just squeeze it out of the end of the bag and let it fall. Move your wrist in a little bit of a zigzag. I want this to be really delicate, and I want it to look a lot like a doily. I'm coming in extremely delicately with my number 104 rose tip, and I'm just doing just a very light, almost a straight shell movement here, and just attaching to the bottom edge of my overhang here. This is a really, really delicate maneuver here. I'm going to come back in here with my number 1 writing tip and just kind of blur those edges with my SWEETEX. That way I don't have to have more weight of another border, but I still have more of a finished edge. Next, we're starting on our bottom tier. And I want to create a ribbon and eyelet. So I want to mark straight up and down, and I'm using my drywall tool here. Those of you guys have seen me ice with this tool. It's just a tool from the hardware store. And I want to make sure that I'm straight up and down. Our color in this case is a bright pink. It's still soft compared to most pink, but it's brighter than our base color. I want to start at the top, really make sure I'm guiding here. Even pressure, and this is where my football stance really makes different. Knees bent, elbows out, and be able to move, squeeze even pressure, and straight down. This is going to be an eyelet, so the next step is to use our number 1 writer, our number 4 writer, and just put some bands that go straight across. The next step is to add a ruffle down each side with my number 104 rose tip. The next step is to fill in here down next to my ribbon. And this is one you probably haven't seen me use before. This is a number 16 star tip, meaning it's a very tiny star tip. A number 1 or number 4 writer would also work fine here too. I just wanted just a tiny bit of extra texture. And I'm just doing a squeeze and release, very small shell border here. It's time to start adding my borders. And I've got a number 23 star tip here, and I'm actually just going to add a very, very simple straight shell. Next, I'm going to add a very small reverse shell here. By small, I'm meaning light pressure control with my same number 23 star tip. At my base, I'm going to do the same, only slightly larger upper shell. Next, I'm preparing the top for the vase. I want to add a little bit of coconut here, layer. I'm treating this just as if I were adding another cake on top, another tier. So the cake underneath is doweled so that it can support the weight of my vase. I also want my coconut here to create a cushion so that I can make sure that my vase is nice and level here. Remember, I've got several layers of icing underneath, so I want to make sure that I've got a nice cushion here. I want to show you my vase here. It's just a regular sized cupcake and a mega muffin stacked on each other, just like a regular cake, and iced. Then on top, I just used my 127D and created a large and lazy ruffle. So it's that simple. It's also doweled all the way through. You can see a very tall dowel here, and you'll see the use for that in just a minute. The next step is to add my vase to the top of my cake. Now there's a lot at stake here. So what I want to do is move my cake off of my turntable. Move it down so that I have more height to work with here. I'm going to take my offset spatula. See, an offset spatula is one that has this link in it, and this is exactly what this kind of thing is for. I'm going to very delicately go underneath, twist my board, and make sure that my cake is completely released. I'm using that large skewer as a balancer. Gently, gently, gently moving it here. Now, another great thing that my coconut does is it allows me to delicately move my vase around. I want to take care that it's very centered, and I'm going to use that skewer, poke it down in slightly so that my cake doesn't move. And turn my turntable to be sure that my vase is centered. So I'm all lined up, I've checked, I've had someone else check, and now I've got my tall skewer. I'm going to push down through. So I've now started very, very delicately placing flowers. I'm starting with the flowers that are hanging over the side first, and I'm going to go ahead and just trim. Make sure you hold on to it as you trim. Take your scissors in here for support, and I'm going to angle them so that they'll hang over the side all around this way before I add them in the center. Now, I want this arrangement to be fairly sparse. I don't want a lot of flowers in it. I want it to have kind of that funny little loose flower arrangement look. Just tucking my last flower down in. I'm actually piping a couple of flowers down around the pot, and I'm going to pipe them right on. So I'm just adjusting my angle to get 4 petals on, and then another 3. So I got to turn my bag over here. And I have some pre-prepared marshmallows with sugar on them without the stick that I am just going to tuck down in and just start adding a few little dots around. So as you can see, I finished up by putting all my little flowers in and adding just a touch of leaves. We also added this "It's a Girl" card from the florist shop, just like this was a bouquet of flowers being delivered. I added just a few flowers around the base and around the side just to tie in the poppy motif. This was a lot of fun. I hope you got a few ideas from it. Don't forget, you can always subscribe. It's free. You can find me at The Art of Frosting on Facebook and at www.theartoffrosting.blogspot.com. Both places I share your work and mine. Thanks for watching. We'll see you all again soon. Bye.